Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this session of Rolling Out's Peace and Purpose. Today, we are joined with the Manifest Mentor, Brian Hyppolite, and we are going to be discussing Manifest Destiny, developing your mindset and drive. Hello, Brian. How are you?
I'm blessed and highly favored. Excited to be here with you. How you doing, Queen?
I am wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So before we get diving into the topic, please share a little bit about yourself, kind of how you came to this work, what it looks and feels like, but really like what brought you here, and then what you do. Because there's a lot of people that talk about manifest, right? But
Absolutely. I'm 36 from Tampa, Florida, and I am a three-time author. My first book is called Manifesting You, 111 Keys to Unlocking Your Divinity. And it was a book that I created as I was on my own journey of evolution and elevation. And what I did is I journaled and charted a lot of the things that began to make a difference in my life. And wound up turning that into a book that is now in 155 different countries and impacting so many lives. And it was really just a start, because it went from there, from this book to a course, to now I have a whole community called Manifest University, where we deal with breaking generational curses and creating generational wealth on a daily basis.
I love it. Can we pause 1 second? Britt, is he loud enough? We can restart. So you've built this community, and what was your goal with building the community, and what have you seen come out of it?
My goal was to give my people tools that would allow them to get away from the hurts, habits, and hangups that were blocking them from the abundance that they wanted in their life. It was also to start giving them the tools that would allow them to find their purpose, their divine purpose, and begin to walk in that path. And I've seen amazing results. We used to have some people who, when they got to the year anniversary of having my book, they were publishing their own book, and they were, telling their story, and they were bringing elevation with them from their own message. We have people who've wanted to accomplish plenty of things and maybe just lacked a supportive community or a know-how, or they just needed a little bit of accountability, and have accomplished things that they've wanted to do for decades. So it's amazing to see the growth. It's amazing to see the prosperity, and it's like my life's love and mission. So excited to be here.
I love that. So when you say, because you were saying first you said purpose and then you said divine purpose. So is there like a difference between what we think of our purpose versus our divine purpose?
I believe so. And I think the divine purpose is the one that has a greater benefit, if you will.
Okay.
It impacts much more than you and your immediate circle. And when we tap into that, and my book outlines and the course outlines ways of doing that, such as utilizing your talents and your skill sets to help the people that you were sent to this dimension to help and to heal. A lot of people don't know who that is or what that is. And a clear way to get to it, if you could tell me how you're hurting, I could tell you who you're supposed to be healing. And some of the things that you do effortlessly well and that you get enjoyment out of doing naturally, I can point you in a direction of something you're supposed to be doing. Now, if we put those two things together, that thing that you're great at doing and those people that you're sent to here to help, we're going to find a passion or a purpose that is connects you with a divine reason to be doing it. And you get a lot your own way and with your own results, but when you attach divinity to it, you start to get divine results.
That's amazing. So how do you help people get out of their own way?
We get them out of their head and get them into following their soul. We see most of the time people are following their emotions, they are following the behavior patterns that they're used to. We're such creatures of habit. So most people are following the behavior patterns, the mindsets that they're used to. And what we find is that in a new season, people are still doing old things, old methods that won't help them in this season. I'm sorry.
That's okay, because it's real life, right? We have babies. We can't sequester them away from us. Not all the time. And so in these new seasons of finding new habits, right? Because it really is easy to just maintain the old thing.
Absolutely.
Some of it's ingrained just by virtue of seeing it from our family. Other, it's like literally epigenetic and it comes down through our bloodline.
Mhm.
What have you seen have been the best methodologies of helping release people from these habits and to adopt new ones?
It starts with a good set of questions.
Mm,
Definitely understand that the quality of our life is strongly based and connected to the quality of the questions that we ask and that we answer.
okay.
So I start a lot of my sessions asking someone what it is that they want from life, what it is that they want their life to be, and then following up with, do you believe you can have that? And for some people, that's where we have to stop and for a moment to deal with that, because there's definitely some people that say that they want it, but they don't really feel like maybe it's not for them. Maybe I'm not supposed to be blessed above and beyond. Maybe, they just don't always believe it. So it's a matter of dealing with that right there. And then the third question is, do you believe it's available to you?
Right,
And if you believe
right,
it's available to you, and if you believe you should have it, and you believe you can have it now, let's move from there and see
right.
what that route of um, getting you from one place to the other is.
And so if people don't know if it's available to them, how do they shift and walk through to a space where they then can learn to envision themselves differently, or at least interrogate the why they don't think it's of them and for them?
It's normally wrapped in the identity that they hold. And most people are going through life experiencing what life has trained them to experience. So when we can allow someone to see the limitations surrounded with that's attached to the identity that they're holding,
Right.
oftentimes we deal with letting that go, letting go of the parts of you that are no longer bringing what you want to your life, and that
Mhm.
are separating you or pinching you off from the abundance that you can have. And a lot of us come up with an upbringing that is rooted in lack or rooted in struggle, and so we have grown up in that, and from that took plenty of survival methods into what we do. And getting someone to step away from that and move into the everything that would lead you to a thriving type of life, it's just
Right.
everything that you're doing that's tied to lack and limitation.
Mm. So when people are envisioning what they should have, is there ever space where they realize that because we're so conditioned that we should want all of these things, do
Mhm.
people realize that they really don't need as much and that's more? And so how do they reconcile that? Because there's this thing that tells you to be successful, I'm supposed to have this. But I really don't need that. Right. I
Right.
think a lot of people realized in the pandemic, I don't need all that. I don't like
Um,
it. I don't care about it. You know what I mean? So how do you help people reorient themselves once they realize I don't quite need all of that? I was in this rat race for something that really doesn't honor me. And not that I want to shift that to owning a business and then being in that rat race, because we don't talk about that honestly, right? Owning a business can be a rat race.
for sure.
But I have a different set of rules for myself now. So how do
We
I
have what our
rejigger
value.
my brain?
Yeah, we address what's really valuable and what coincides with the values that we see ourselves holding for the next 50 years. If you can look at what's important, what's truly important to you and what's of value to you, and then just start basing things around that, you're going to find an abundance of peace anyway, because you're going to be
Mhm.
in the value of the things that you value. And it's also going to eliminate the mindset that would want the liabilities,
Okay.
things that just provide that temporary whatever they provide. So a lot of times with that change of identification that we were just talking about comes a change of value.
Mhm.
When
Okay.
the values change, the things that impress you change, the things that keep you up at night or make you go to sleep change.
Right. Right.
So it's realigning and adjusting to a small alignments lead to big adjustments. And so it's just making.
I like that. I like that phrasing. Because we talk a lot about alignment. But the other side of that is how do you adjust once you get that alignment or once you see where you need to align. So that people can understand there's the thought process piece, but then there's the actualization and walking in the steps piece as well. At a time together. And so when people are working with you or reading this book, right, what are the essential core pieces for people to, once they ask their questions and figure out, okay, I think I have some new dreams. How do they shift from having new dreams to then manifesting what they feel they're moving towards?
Would you mind asking me that question again?
Sure. So once people ask the questions or you work with them directly and ask the questions and they realize they have some new dreams for themselves,
right.
How do they shift from having a dream to then, like you said, someone that actually wrote a book a year later, right? Or multiple people who wrote books or have shifted and have new businesses. I think we're saying about like having multiple boats, using that as a new resource for themselves. How do they go from, okay, I have an idea of what I think I want to do because I've asked these questions. How do they then shift from that idea to intelligently and intentionally, right? Because there's that, I'm going to go run and start a business and get an LLC and I'm going to go, versus creating flow, being present, looking at what's available to you and identifying the best option, the best alignment with other folks that gets you where you are in a real organic way, that honors who you are, that doesn't have you in a rat race, that doesn't have you feeling like an imposter or, you know what I mean? Like, how do we get from an idea to, I'm going to take that step and walk the path?
Getting from the idea to the manifestation is walking in your power every day. Now, the quickest way to lose your power is to not operate with intention. So the best way to have your power, hold your power, use your power is to be extremely intentional. So taking that idea out of your mind and putting it into your possession includes you having a daily schedule. I put it like this one. We'll outline a goal and say, well, all right, this goal is going to be done, it's going to be executed. And whatever your goal is, you gotta have to give it a time and an address to meet you at. And so we're going to
like that time and address. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what's going to happen. And goal, this is where you're going to meet me at, and I'm going to meet you there. And then you start working backwards. Let's say that goal has a year deadline. We're going to break that goal down into 4 or 5 steps, and then give each one of those steps a time that step needs to be done. So now we got a breakdown. So we know what we need to be doing each quarter to get to that year goal. So we could break that breakdown down and say what we need to be doing each month to get to that quarter goal, and what we need to be doing each week to get to that month goal, and what we need to be doing each, that breakdown to the day.
Right.
And so being extremely intentional in the way that we're using our energy, staying away from everything that will pull us away from that. That's how you do what people say, looks like magic. Like, oh, how'd you do that? I was focused. We as beings of energy have such an amazing power if we will just focus. Especially in this time, especially with these phones, especially with everything that's around us, don't know how to focus on anything for more than 5 minutes at a time. So how
because it's power, but it's also distractive. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's tuning you into your power and eliminating the distractions. Distractions don't appear to be distractions until they're done distracting you. So you have to give yourself the guidance that's going to allow you to thrive in a situation that you want to be in.
I love that. So when folks are looking at the distractions, how do we identify and eliminate, right? You may feel like I need to go support my family here and whatnot, but that can be a distraction, right? The extra work you do for your job, that's what you need to do, but that extra work could be a distraction. Or fraternizing during lunch could be a distraction because you could be sitting down working on your personal dreams during lunch, right? Like, how do we help people, or how do you help people, I should say, identify those distractions and then learn to kind of walk it back?
We look at what that action offers you,
Mm,
what it brings you. Because everything that we do, we're doing it for a benefit of some sort.
right.
So what that offers you versus what another action could, and is one rooted in your purpose or and another one rooted in your ego? You can only serve one or the other. Or is one rooted in your faith and one rooted in your fear? You can only exercise one or the other at one time. So it's always looking at pointing you back to what you identified as valuable to you and saying, okay, well, to uphold that value, because if you find it, we're always willing to do whatever's going to keep something that we value in that state. So if you value it or you want to add value to it, this is you need to stay away from anything that's going to pull away from that value. And when we're dealing with ourselves, we have to look at our environments, internal and external, and say, well, what about this is not contributing to my elevation? What about this is not getting me towards my goal? And and if you start each day and analyze these things, personal accountability, a daily check,
Mm.
that keeps you online, that keeps you, on course.
So what's your daily checklist that you're checking in with yourself about? What does that look like?
My daily checklist consists of like my writing projects, the affirmations that I'm working on. Like I have 3 whiteboards in my office. One is full of ideas, one is what the schedule is, and one is what is going to be executed. And once something gets on that execution board, it's good as done. And every day I'm looking at my schedule and I'm looking at the variables in my life that could not be scheduled. Look at the other parts of my kingdom that I'm also going to have to take care and give care to, and see, okay, well, what audibles do I need to call today? Because I know what's on the schedule and I know what needs to get done. I also know this person over here is going to need some of my time that wasn't scheduled. So like, just maneuver around so that everything gets catered to. But I go through each day and each by 2-hour increments, looking at what I'm supposed to be doing with this time so that I can go into tunnel vision, focus, shut everything else down, just focus on this one thing. And it produces a high level of productivity for me and for those who follow that mode, like breaking down your day in 2 hours increments of what you're going to be doing for those 2 hours. So
Mm.
that's what, like, when I start my day going over my checklist, I'm looking at that. And then I'm looking and say, okay, what audibles need to be called today? What didn't get done yesterday that definitely needs to get done maybe today or tomorrow, but definitely by the end of the week. And where are we putting that in that sense? So you just look and you just be proactive. People always act like they don't have enough hours in the day. And I can't believe that, because we all got the same amount of hours. And I know what I do with mine.
Mm.
I know I can also not be highly productive if I'm
Right.
utilizing these easy tools that will sit there and allow me to be productive.
Yeah. So it's more to you is how you schedule and give yourself the kind of structure and scaffolding
Mm,
after you ask your questions.
absolutely. And
Um,
that has to include the downtime, the reset time
okay.
as well. It just can't be work, 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 especially if you're talking about an entrepreneur, serial entrepreneur, where no one's giving you off days and vacation days. Like, you have to schedule those for yourself, for your
Mhm.
reboot and rebuild. So that has to be in there as
You have
well.
the greatest little phrases. Reboot, rebuild. You had something with the H earlier today.
I got them for you.
I love it. And so when we reboot and rebuild, what have you found to been the most restorative? I'm working with you, I'm working with you. Restorative practices that help you maintain a sense of peace, but gives you kind of a little more push to keep going.
Or whatever you love to do creatively.
Okay.
Whatever you love to do creatively, you stay in that space where your energy, where your focus goes, your energy is going to flow to. So if you put it on something that you love to do, something that lights up your heart, something that is your natural, what we'll call a God-given talent, whenever your well start to run dry, go back to your God-given talent.
Mm,
There's going to be abundance there, and in that place of abundance, you will tap into the rest of what you need for the other areas of your life. It's going to bring you internal fulfillment. It's going to make you feel accomplished, and then in that space of clarity, where you're not putting up the resistance that we do in other areas, you'll receive the clarity that you'll need to do other things.
Oh, so it's interesting you said resistance. So in your sweet spot of where you feel naturally gifted, you may have natural gifts other places, but where you feel that you kind of own,
Absolutely.
it allows you to release resistance. So then you have less resistance for things you really need to do. Is that what we're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That is an interesting way to look at it. I don't think I've heard it phrased that way, but it's really helpful because it helps you understand how some people can keep going. And no
Mhm.
matter how many massages you take
Mhm.
or go spa visits, right?
Right.
People just don't feel, like you said, the restoration, because
Right.
rest and restoration and sleep, and self-care, those are all different types of things, right? The impact is differently.
And you can't work or rest yourself into alignment. You can't do,
Mm,
and I think we try, not I think, I know we try to do both of those things. And
okay.
that's not, alignment is harmony between all dimensions of your existence. So mind, soul, body, and energy. Anytime you can obtain that, it's nothing spooky, nothing crazy about it. Like anytime you can just have your mind, soul, body, and energy in harmony, you're gonna have peace.
Mm,
But most people can't find that harmony a lot of the times because they're not listening. You ever tried to sing with someone and harmonize and someone's not listening? Like it's impossible to do. And they're not listening to one aspect of them. Whether it might for most of the people that I reach, it's their soul that they're not listening to. They're listening to
mm,
their mind, they're listening to all the creations of their mind, their memory, their imagination, their emotions, all that stuff. But not their soul. And your soul isn't confused.
right. So she's like, listen, I'm going to participate. I didn't go to the park. I'm going to participate. Hi, sweetest. So question for you. How do you guide people into learning how to sense, hear, feel, receive what their soul is telling them? Outside of the questions, because that can be a little cerebral, right? Um, how do we get people to really kind of open up to receive the information that informs them of what and how they should be operating?
Right. Um, some people respond well to the meditative practices.
Sure.
And that's what helps them. You gotta sit here and be still, baby. And that's what helps them. And if it's not that practice, is other things that's going to just get them to be still, quiet their mind, speak through their intentions. And practices like that get you out of the forefront of your mind and
Gotcha.
give way to the things that may be in the back of it. Also, writing down your intentions and writing down your goals before you go to sleep, thinking about it. So then, because a lot of times we go to sleep because our soul is tired of arguing with our mind. So it's like, I'm gonna just go ahead and go to rest. So because I need to do what I need to do. And so if you focus on something and then go to sleep and you wake up in the morning, the next morning you have oftentimes have a clear understanding or some new understanding that you didn't have. And that's because while you were asleep, you weren't mentally capable of resisting that information that was in the back of your mind.
Mm,
So it's just different things like that to give you the opportunity to move out of your way. But it definitely um, works well when someone is willing to sit still, eliminate their distractions, turn off their phones, get away from everyone else, and give themselves to themselves with
mm. I
with
like
no
that version.
regard of everything else. We're used to giving ourselves to everything and everyone else. We're used to listening to everything and everyone else. We're used to managing everything and everyone else, but our own vibrational realities, but our own psychological realities, but our own mental realities. So if we can sit down with all of those things and say, all right, well, this is the time that I'm going to allow myself to elevate, it creates the environment that you need on the outside so you can create the environment that you need on the inside.
Mm. So how do you And you spoke about ego earlier, kind of differentiating between what is the ego and what is real. And we talk a lot about that in current times. It's a brand new thought, wasn't really often talked about before. I'd say the past 5 to 7 years, right? It's more common to discuss it. But do we really know, and how do you explain to people the difference between their ego and their self? Because I think people confuse like their personality with their ego with what their mind may be telling them. What
Right.
aspect of all of those things is in their ego?
Right. And our ego has a purpose. Our ego is there to protect us.
Yep.
Our ego, the moment that we form an identity of any kind, our ego is there to protect that identity.
Mhm.
We think of, a lot of people think of egos in terms of thinking highly and mighty about yourself. Your ego is also that thing that give you a fear of heights. Like that's your ego as well, protecting you and saying,
Right.
I don't know about that over there. So separate someone from their ego to their purpose, what I do is ask them qualifying questions and say, well, is this connecting you to something greater or something that's within your mind? What is it catering to?
Mm.
What purpose does it have? And most of the time you'll see that someone is catering to their imagination or their memory, and that's ego.
Right.
That that's not allowing. I like I seen someone say that ego is edging God out,
Mm.
and nothing can be created in that space when you have ego. Like ego can only react to things. Ego doesn't create. So that's a good way to identify whether this is something that's for your purpose or for your ego, as if it's capable of creating or if it's edging the God in you out of the situation and only leaving the man in you present. So which one is it catering to?
Right. So that we have our baby right here, how do you share this type of insight and train up children in a way to be aware of their ego and to learn to listen? Children come really rare, right? But typically families, school, conditioning of being in public, society, TV, all of that fun stuff
Right.
kind of strips them away of their native intelligence and their connection to themselves and to the spirit world. How do you help support children to maintain that connection to themselves firstly, and then of course to all of their selves?
Sure. Let's see, what do? We do a lot of affirmations. We do a lot of affirmations. And that keeps them centered with an identity that definitely separates them from a lot of other young people. My daughters are 4 and 6. Um, so these affirmations, and then they have questions. Well, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'll break that, whatever that affirmation was down, or whatever that thing is down, and allow them to see how they are greater than they even understand. Allow them to see, whether it's their simple ability to just start coloring inside the lines. Listen, that's a divine thing you did right there. And I'm so proud of you. And with that talent, you can do this and you can do that. And, and just continue to make them greater and make them understand themselves to be greater, as well as making them see the value that they have in my life. That seems like such a powerful thing, that's helped me and helped them, is for them to see that their impact. I think in earlier generations, it didn't seem like children were rewarded as much for being good as we were chastised when we did something wrong.
Mm.
The same way when we grew up, uh, and would get more attention if we were sick than when we were well.
Right.
These are ills, these are things that came inside us that started to make us codependent on other people's behaviors and approvals and different things like that. And so just being a conscious parent of that, I just eliminate those things from our environment. and allow them to see the God in them,
Mm,
and champion that,
right.
and just show them by example. I have little girls, so it's important for me to show them how a man is supposed to treat them, whether he's happy with them or not, whether they've done what he wanted them to do, or not. So it's, for me, a lot of checkpoints of how I conduct myself, to be that example, for them.
That's amazing. So as we look to creating a new kind of mindset,
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing that you mentioned was having support. And so developing and determining, because like that determining part of who should be in the tribe is real huge, right? Who do you need to eliminate that's not going to be supportive of you? And that
Right.
doesn't mean people aren't going to challenge you. Like you should be able to, this kind of, oh, they're a hater. Age has allowed people to step away from the responsibility of being questioned
Mhm.
so they want to understand better. But also sometimes you need to be challenged because you're not right, right? People are a little soft,
You got to
unable to take a question and critique
right.
versus criticism, right? Which
Right.
is healthy. Critique is healthy. How do people develop really sustaining tribes? Because it's hard when you have like a crew that you get together with and you think that's a crew, and then it doesn't sustain itself. Either fear, insecurity, haterism if you want to use it, or ego. Um, how do you develop sustaining tribes that can walk you through and allow each of y'all to grow in your own way, individually, but collectively as well?
That's a great question. I call them divinity bonds. We've gotten uh, we've grown up with a lot of trauma bonds.
Yeah.
We create relationships out the blue in real time off of trauma bonds. Oh, such
Mm,
happened to me. Oh, such it happened to me like this too. Oh, now we're friends. Like we do that so much. It's become second nature. So getting out of that habit and creating divinity bonds. So these are now people that you have a divine purpose with, or you see something that you both can add to each other, that adds value to each other, and you have a mutual goal, a mutual thing that you both want to see take place, or you've done something great together and just like the results that you were able to produce together. Divinity bonds, alignment, people who are on what you're on, people who are going in the direction that you're going with, and people who are willing, and this is key, to
mm,
go with the highest consciousness in the room.
okay. As in everyone wants to be the leader, but folks have to listen to what
Yeah.
really is.
You got to be able to go with the highest consciousness in the room, whether it came from out of your mouth or somebody that you favor or somebody that you don't. If it's right, it's right. If it's that, then that's a big thing at Manifest University. And iron sharpens iron by clashing. Everyone thinks iron's supposed to sharpen iron just because you put it next to each other. That's not how it happens. That's not how knives get sharpened. That's not how none
Right.
of it. Like it has to clash. So I'm gonna have to say something that might, push your button, or that you might want to challenge. Now, to be able to have conversations with people and disagreements without judgment is how we continue to learn through it. But if you're going to judge the person or their opinion and feel that you have to then, because the other part of judging is defense, and then feel like you need to defend what you think and defend yourself, you're not learning. You don't
Mm,
stand the opportunity to learn. You can't learn and judge at the same time, because when you're judging, you're forcing your opinion and your understanding of it. So it's all of those things, and then it's also releasing, knowing that people are coming into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
right.
So
Yeah.
you don't get to choose. You may want to. You may even thought you knew, but release it. When something is not aligned with this season, with this purpose, and with you, being able to release it ushers in that thing that is in alignment with you.
Ah,
But if you're not willing to let go of that good thing that came, you won't have
they're not
access
so good, but
to
we
the
still hold on to it because it's to have something.
right. You won't ever have access to the greatness that's available to you, because this universe works off of laws of reciprocation, attraction, different things like that. that says, I'm not bringing you what you want, I'm bringing you what you deserve, I'm giving you what you give me. And so, you want to be intentional to create the environments that are going to reciprocate the goodness, the greatness that you want to come your way.
Yeah. That is really important because I think people forget we have because we have lack centered, right? Because if you understand the abundance and the joy of every moment in life and those that happen to pass through, either
Right.
they stay or they go, but pass through, then you don't hold on. But because we're concerned about being alone or not being seen, or feeling good, or having being a relationship or a friendship, whatever that is, it's part of it is that public facing, and part of that is the interior. I don't want to be by myself, and I thought you were mine. We try to hold on to things that forces a lot of things into existence that shouldn't be, right? As opposed to just enjoying that time and appreciating for what it is. So I like the way you phrase that, because it helps to get a little more crystallized, right?
Absolutely.
We make things a little hard, but that again comes from the lack and the holding on. We gripped up tight.
Right, holding on, and you can't receive with your hands holding on. So you really gotta let things go so that your hands could be open to receive what is coming your way. And then also be willing to let go of any version of yourself that's not contributing to your elevation, and rather than looking around and for anything else that you may want to blame it on or put it on, you have so much more power when you take full personal accountability for it and say, well, there was a part of me that wasn't contributing, that allowed that to be, that's not contributing to my elevation. So I need to not just distance myself from that person, but I have to let go of that part of me that permitted it, that wasn't loyal to my calling, that wasn't loyal to my divinity, that wasn't loyal to my goals, and get rid of that. And no one can do that for you. You have to do that. And if you don't, you will recycle the cycles of life that will be recycled through you, because you are hindering yourself from moving forward and creating the new path that you're supposed to be on.
Yeah. I think the self-harm we do can be difficult, right? Because you're like, I wouldn't do this to myself. But knowing that it happens, part of it's conditioning and part of it's just the fear of running away from the conditioning and the potential opportunities.
Right.
So when you built your community, how did you do that? So you had a book, you promoted it, but how did you keep people engaged and connected to you in such a way that they're willing to just come show up daily and weekly and monthly and hang out and learn and grow?
I created a 36 class course that goes along with the book, and began selling that course. I created a group chat for everyone that was in the course in case they wanted to ask a question to me. And from the moment that I did that, it just turned into a community. It just organically began growing. It was a bunch of women first, and they did what women do, and they made this house a home, and they started decorating it and putting up curtains. And eventually I was like, where are the men? It's like 30 of y'all. Like, the men are coming. Matter of fact, I'm not gonna ask where they at. The men are coming. And then they start showing up. Kings who were serious and dedicated to advancing their lives, breaking generational curses, and and empowering their families started to show up. You are what you attract, thankfully. So it's been just a safe place for people to come and learn without being judged. And so what began happening is I started doing these daily Zoom calls at 9 a.m. And I would start by playing the audiobook from my book, breaking down a few keys of it, and then just going to a dialogue, talking. Then it started being evening classes as well as we began to grow. Because again, we focus on breaking generational curses and creating generational wealth. So the breaking generational curse side is personal development, self-mastery, goal execution. The creating generational wealth is different wealth strategies and various things that would, lead you to gain a bag and creating that generational wealth. So that's normally reserved for like Thursday evenings, where we're talking about different things that could empower our members economically, and teaching them different trades or skill sets and things like that. So it just became a place of resource, a place of family. We've had our third retreat. Um, November the 11th began our third retreat, where people have come from all over the country to Tampa, Florida, to be together, because they're on these calls virtually every day and call each other brother and sister, and just want to get together and experience what it's like. And every time we get together, it's an amazing experience. Amazing. And like, the places where we go, we impact the people when we're there. When we're leaving, they're like, "Oh, there's something special about those people." And it's an amazing thing.
It was really organic.
I have some family members that call it a church. I have some that call it a cult. I have, like, it depends on how you're looking at it. But even the ones that call it a cult, like, we're a culture. That's the root word. We're a culture. We're cultivating. We're, like, yeah, it's all that. But what it is not is a place for stagnant people. What it is not is a place for people who are going to make excuses and not make a way. And so having these parameters where as soon as you come in, a lot of times we get someone on their first few days in there, when they start talking and they use the word trying, someone's going to come unmute themselves on that call and say, "Yeah, we don't use the word trying here.
Yeah, it's failing with honor.
Yeah,
We ain't doing it.
we're high performance over here. We believe in what we're going to do. So there's no trying in this equation." And so just being an environment unlike anything else. And, and even for me, this has been an extremely rough year for my family. I lost my mother a few months ago, and a few other people close to me. And I know this has been a trying year for a lot of people. Like, death has definitely been, moving around a lot lately. This community for me has been a cornerstone of support and of love. So everything that I've given out is definitely came back. And that's why, and I keep going and keep coming. Just change the times to 7 a.m. So now we're starting our calls at 7 in the morning instead of 9. And that seems to be better for a lot of people who got other schedules that was stopping them from getting on it. So if you create the opportunity for growth, people show up. And if you're going to feed them, everyone needs soul food. And when you've gotten soul food, like, that feeling. And I tell people all the time, like, whoever you believe in, they've set a table, they've set a plate for you every day. And you'll know if you're where you're supposed to be if you got that food. You keep going where your soul is getting fed. And they will have some people that might fall off, and then they'll come back. Someone came back this week that we haven't seen in months. So it's like, yeah, I needed to get back here. Because when I stopped coming here, I stopped doing other things that was leading me in the right path. And now I'm trying to get back right. So I had to come back. So just make the opportunity for advancement available to your people, and you love the ones that come.
That's amazing. I think that is probably a great moment to end on. So we stay in our time zone, but is there anything that parting thoughts, last bits of wisdom, or something that we haven't gotten to that you really want to ensure that you shared about this work of manifesting and building tribes and seeing yourself and aligning that self for those selves, right?
Sure. When often when people come to me and they're telling me that they're having a hard time manifesting of something that they want, that they're focusing on it, and and it's not coming, and asking what are they doing wrong. When we unpack what they're actually doing, a lot of times when someone thinks that they're focusing on abundance in terms of money, again money, a lot of times when we unpack their thoughts, what they really were focusing on was the lack of money. What they were really thinking about was what's going to happen next week if this money doesn't come. Like, that's really what's going on in their brain. They're really actually not focused on the abundant. They're focused on the presence of lack. When if it's not money, and they're talking about how they feel, and they're telling me that they're unhappy, especially if they've been unhappy for a period of time, compounded unhappiness. A lot of time when we unpack all that, what we find out is they've been practicing the vibration of the problem and not the vibration of the solution. And you can't see a solution staring at a problem. So if you are focused on creating a new reality, if you are focused on manifesting something, what you are going to have to do is focus on what you want to happen, not what's happening at the moment.
Right. Or the negative possibility and the good thing you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what a lot of people do. And they think that they're bringing things to them when they're repelling it away. You know, this universe operates in a very orderly and distinct manner. And like I said earlier, it reciprocates a lot. A lot of people don't understand when they're always in this gimme, 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 speaking to God, speaking to the universe.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're putting out. And what do you think happens when the universe turns around and says, oh, we're playing the gimme game? Okay, I like that game. Give me this, give me that, give me that. And now you can't receive because you're in a perpetual state of giving because the universe or God is doing exactly to you what you did to them. So when you are in a state of manifesting, taking something out your mind, putting it in your possession, you don't have to go out preparing for what you stay in preparing for. You don't have to go out, I'm sorry, you don't have to go out looking for, searching for what you stay in preparing for. And in nature and everything natural, there is a period of preparation before that manifestation.
Yeah.
So if you just sit still and prepare for it, align your thoughts, align your attentions, it's going to come. And if that doesn't work, come see the Manifest Mentor.
I love that. Well, I want to thank you again for joining us for this year's. It's our second annual. We just started last year, Peace and Purpose. I think you've given us some good things to walk on. How can people find you?
You can find me at brianhyppolite.com, also at Brian Hyppolite on all the social platforms. I have affirmation albums on all of the media platforms. Just search Brian Hyppolite. I'm gonna definitely gonna come up. And make sure you get the book, Manifesting You, 111 Keys to Unlocking Your Divinity.
I love it. Thank you, kind sir.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you, Queen.
Indeed. Peace.